Hi, Julia, and welcome to Entrepreneurcast. It's such a great pleasure to have you with us today.
Hello, Svietlana. Thank you so much for having me. I'm really excited and looking forward to the interview.
Amazing. So, Julia, before we get started with the business side of things, tell us a little bit about who are you outside of your business and what do you enjoy doing in your spare time?
Oh, that's such a fun question. So, in my head, I'm like the perfect housewife, 1960s housewife that cooks and bakes and keeps the perfect house. So, I think that's who I am in my head, but my husband would definitely disagree. So, so I'm married, I'm child free by choice, and I like to say child free by choice because then people send me all these really moving stories of their auntie and their friend who tried for 59 years to have a baby and then had a baby. I don't want any babies, with love to all of the people who have babies. So I'm an happy auntie. I get to spoil my nieces and nephews, and I have none of the responsibility afterwards. And I grew up in Trinidad, if people are wondering about my very unusual accent. So Trinidad is my heart home, as I call it, because that's where my mom still lives and my sisters. And that's pretty much me in a nutshell. So husband is from Northern Ireland. We live in Kent in the UK. I'm from Trinidad. It's a very fun household to live in.
Sounds good to me. So, Julia, tell us about your business. It's exciting. What is it that you do, and what inspired you to start it?
So I help people to set up a simple high-end coaching business. And I say simple because a lot of times we get told as coaches or consultants or even as service-based business owners that we have to have all these 10 million moving parts to really make money. And so I show my clients how to create, market, and sell premium high-end coaching offers and really scale their business quickly. So it's a bit of a circuitous journey to this point. I'll give you the short version, else your listeners will be here all night. So my first business that made any money was a luxury wedding and event planning company. And so I used to plan destination weddings for people who were based in the UK and wanted to go to Tobago because that's, home to get married. And I was selling wedding packages that were 10K. So that was my fee, £10,000 at the time. And that was my fee. And people started asking me, other wedding planners and people in the wedding industry were asking me, how do you get people to pay you 10 grand? Like, it's not money to be sniffed at. I know that there are people who sell programs now for 50,000 and 100,000, but like, this is maybe 6 or so years ago, it wasn't common. And bit by bit, I would share, well, this is what I did, and this is what I did, and this is how I set up the package. And I actually didn't charge any money for doing that because I didn't think it was a thing. I just wanted to be helpful.
Mm.
And so after this happened a few times, and then people would email me and ask, do you teach classes? Do you give courses? And I kept thinking there's so many other wedding planning companies in, like, even in London, because at the time we lived in London. Why am I going to start another one? But after like the sixth or seventh email, I just thought, you know what, I'm going to do this. And so I put on a course and I sold 68 places. And I ended up having to put on several days because I did not expect to sell 68 places in like the first go of filling a workshop. That doesn't really happen very often. And so that really was the catalyst to the coaching business that I have now. So it's grown over time, it's changed over time. I went from only coaching other wedding planners. Then there was a period where I would like coach anybody because I wanted to build up the experience, the testimonials, and so I really started my business showing people how to add high-end packages to their service-based business. And now my focus is mainly on coaches. Sometimes I will have clients who are not coaches, but 99% of my clients are coaches, and that's pretty much how I got to this point. So I went from luxury wedding planning to being a wedding trainer to being a coach to other wedding professionals. And then slowly but surely, I had clients who were healers and accountants. And I even had like a psychic medium who was a client at one point. That was really fun. But now my clients tend to be mainly coaches and consultants.
Brilliant. And being a businesswoman and housewife who's not really a housewife.
No, I'm not. I pretend to be a housewife. That
So,
woman exists in my brain.
so what would you say your typical day looks like?
So my typical day is, all in keeping up the pretense of being like this perfect housewife in my head. So my typical day is I see my husband out to work most mornings, not every morning. I know that sounds terribly old fashioned. So see him off to work, and then very naughty, I tend to check messages on my phone, mainly because I have clients in all different time zones. And so if they've sent a message and it's urgent and it's their evening time, I won't see it till the next morning. And I don't really want to have them wait more than 24 hours for a response, because that's part of what I promise when I work with people one to one. So I tend to check my emails, make sure there's nothing, urgent. And I always joke and I say I need to check to make sure Oprah, Richard Branson, or the Queen's people, aren't trying to get a hold of me. And then once that's out of the way, I do a meditation, because I really believe in grounding myself for the day. So I have my prayer and meditation time. And then just tackle the day really between client coaching calls. So my week is quite segmented. So I only do coaching calls on certain days of the week. And then I have admin days on certain days of the week. So it really depends if I'm having an admin day, if I'm having a coaching day, if I'm out speaking, because I do a lot of speaking at different groups, networking groups, events, that kind of thing. So if I have any speaking, so it varies, but it kind of varies around the theme of I'm either seeing clients, I'm either marketing, or I'm either checking in with my VA and catching up on some admin. So that's pretty much an average day. In the evening, I kind of go back to being, the housewife in my head and figure out what we're having for dinner.
But you cook, right?
I do cook. I actually really like cooking and I really
Oh,
like
brilliant.
baking. So I go to a cake club. This is totally random and nothing to do with business. So I'm a member of a cake club in Ashford. And so we meet about every 6 to 8 weeks and eat cake. So I like cooking and I like baking and I tend to do the dinner. If I said most evenings, that might be a little bit of a stretch. So I tend to do the dinner 40/60, because if I have, and I'm making a complete excuse here, so if I have clients who are on like West Coast time in America, their morning is our evening. So, if it stretches, then my husband will do the dinner, but most times I do the dinner, kind of.
So, Julia, throughout our entrepreneurial and business journey, we come across a lot of challenges. What would you say was your biggest challenge, and how did you manage to overcome it?
Now, this might sound kind of obvious considering what I do now, but my biggest challenge was figuring out how to make money. And I tried loads of things. I tried loads of different types of businesses. The first sort of proper entrepreneurial endeavor, the first proper business I started with premises and everything was a hair and beauty shop in Northern Ireland. So when I got married, I moved from London to Northern Ireland and opened a hair and beauty shop. And we went from open to close in 7 months because I couldn't figure out how to monetize it. So, that's a story for another day. And it wasn't for lack of selling. It wasn't for lack of variety. It wasn't for any of the things that you think. It wasn't for lack of marketing. I was the only hair and beauty shop that catered to the Afro Caribbean and sort of ethnic market where we live. So I had no competition. And people talk about standing out from the competition as being key to being successful in business, but it really isn't, because I was the only one. So there was no competition, and still I just couldn't figure out how to actually what to sell to make the volume of money that is required for a startup to actually keep going. We get told that you can take loans and take loans, and I took loans and I put lots of stuff on credit cards, but I could not figure out how to turn that capital into revenue. And so that business failed, and failure teaches you a lot. And I always say, it was like, I call it my real world MBA because I could have paid 20 grand and gone to business school. I still wouldn't have learned what I know, what running that business taught me. Or I could have ended up 20 grand in debt, which is what happened. And I figured out how not to do that again. And so when I had to get a job and pay that money off and all those sorts of things. But what it taught me is what I then took into my wedding planning business, and that worked.
Hmm.
So that was my biggest thing, figuring out how to monetize it. Yeah. Once you figure that out, then that's what business is about, really. Yeah.
Amazing. And on the bright side of things, what would you say was your greatest success?
Oh, what was my greatest? I think my greatest success was all those years ago selling my first £10,000, landing that first client at what felt like a huge amount of money to me at the time. I mean, I have packages that are more than £10,000 now, but at the time it was the first one, and it really showed me that I'd cracked the code. I knew what I was doing. I could articulate the value of what I was providing to my clients so well that they were willing to make, a five-figure investment for a service. Like, let's face it, people can plan their own weddings. You don't need to hire a wedding planner. So it's not to say it was an essential service. I'm not going to fool myself that it was. So that was a real highlight for me because I was like, okay, I can do this. And I felt confident in knowing that I wouldn't end up in the same position that I was before. So that was a definite highlight.
Julia, just for fun, really, where would you say do you come up with your best ideas?
In the shower or the bath?
Great.
Yeah. I really wanted to be like some super spiritual response, like in my morning meditation. It's very rarely in my morning meditation, and it's usually in the shower or the bath. So yeah.
Well, the two most typical answers I've been getting so far, one of them is shower, bath, or water generally. So
Yes.
most people come up with ideas in water. And the second one is actually while driving. It seems like a lot of people just, while drive, obviously, you just kind of have thoughts floating
Yeah,
and
yeah,
yeah.
that would be probably third. So I would say shower or bath, then my meditation, and then in the car. But all those things have in common is that your logical part of your brain is switched off, and so I
Yeah.
think it means that the creative side can actually function.
Brilliant.
Yeah.
And throughout the years, I mean, usually a lot of us we kind of look up to people and we have personal inspirations. So, do you have so-called personal heroes or people who inspire you, and who are they?
Oh wow. Um, People who inspire me. My dad passed away when I was 21. And my dad had a lot of entrepreneurial ideas that for family reasons, he couldn't pursue them because he had a family to feed. And so his best option to look after his family was to stay in a job. He was a policeman and he absolutely loved his job. He was really good at it. So I keep a picture of him on my desk. It's off to the side of my desk. So my dad is definitely my one of my inspirations because just before he passed away, I always remember I was 21 at the time, and we had this really, really in-depth conversation about 3 weeks before he passed away. And he had been ill for a little while, leading up to that point. And I think something must have stuck because I never, when the opportunities came up for me to start a business, I always thought Dad did what he had to do to make sure that we had a really great life growing up. And so he didn't have that opportunity. And I kind of thought, I have to do it for me and for him. I have to take the chance because I didn't want to get to the end of my life and he didn't regret it, but equally I could see the feeling of what if I had been able to make different choices. And so I didn't want to have that experience. So I definitely do a lot of what I do bearing that conversation in mind, I want to make sure that I take advantage of all the opportunities that we have now as an entrepreneur. And my mom, and that might sound really cheesy that I've said my parents, but my mom is a real hard taskmaster. She's not one of these moms that kind of lets you believe your own BS. You know what I mean? So she would spank and she would cuddle in equal measure. So it was like, you're going to do this and you're going to do it 100% right, or don't bother to do it at all. And so she has instilled a sense of, give it 100% or don't bother. And she also instilled a sense of being financially independent as a woman. So my mom worked for the majority of my time growing up. And even though, I joke about being a housewife and all that kind of thing, she instilled this sense of, you need to be sure that you're financially independent if something should happen, because you can't just be a woman and grow up to want a rich husband. Like, what sense of value is that? So she really instilled this sense of knowing who I was as a woman. And I grew up in a family of 5 girls. So, it was a bit crazy growing up. And she was a very strong woman to us and made sure that we took full advantage of things so that we could have our own sense of like self, I guess. Entrepreneurially, I also have this bright idea that one day me and Richard Branson are going to be chilling out, probably because like he has Necker Island, and Necker Island isn't that far from Trinidad. So in my mind, totally possible. Me and him hanging out on my mom's porch, drinking something nice, eating some homemade bread. My mom's a really good baker as well. Eating some homemade cake or bread or something, and just shooting the breeze about business. So I like his sort of fun side, and the fact that he doesn't take himself too seriously as a multi-gazillionaire. You always see him doing something fun. You always see him publicly, doing something silly. But equally, he's like, behind all of that is a really shrewd entrepreneur. And a lot of times when we feel that we've made it in business, we can take ourselves far too seriously. We can't make a joke. We can't look silly. We can't show up, on a Facebook Live without the hair perfectly done and the face perfectly done and all of that. I mean, like, I record videos for my clients in my dressing gown because I think they know that I did not just roll out of bed, looking like this. And if they want the answer and I'm having a pajama day, they're going to get the answer of me in my pajamas, So I have pajama days sometimes. And I record the video and I pop it in the group. And I'm like, guys, I'm having a pajama day, but there's your answer. So that would be the 3 for me, my parents, and, as an entrepreneur. I like Richard Branson's energy. I like the fact that he keeps moving his own goalposts. And I think it was an interview of his where he has like 5 mentors at any one point in time. And I'm like, if he can have 5, like, I need 10. Because it goes to show that even though he's created all of this fantastic success, he understands the value of mentorship. So yes, I can't think of anybody else. Oh, one more person. There's an American coach called Lisa Sasevich, who I was fortunate enough to be able to go to one of her events a few years back. And what I like about her, which is something that I've added to my own business, is whenever she hosts, a lot of big coaches host live events. And whenever she hosts a live event, and her live events have like 1,000, 2,000 people in the room, it's huge rooms. But what she does is she always has like a nominated charity for the event.
Mm.
So every event she hosts, it makes a difference in the lives of somebody else. So the event that I was at probably about 3 years ago now, she supported a charity that did research into ovarian cancer. So she picks different charities at different times. And what she does is during the 3 days, she will let people know what the charity is and she will encourage everybody in the room to give, and then she will match the amount. And it's something that I've adopted in my own business. And a percentage of my one-to-one coaching fees goes to supporting a European charity called the A21 campaign that deals with women who've been trafficked into Europe. And it's important. The reason why I admire that is because we hear about the make six figures and make seven figures and all of that. But I'm like, well, when we make all this money, what are you going to do with it? And I don't believe in making money just for the sake of making money. I think as entrepreneurs, we have a responsibility to make money and use that money to do good in the world. Like, I love shoes and handbags as much as the next girl, but equally, like, if it means if 10% of what I earn could change somebody's life, then imagine if we all gave 10% or even 1% of what we earned, how much better would we be able to affect the world around us? So yeah, definitely I like the fact that she openly gives, and it's something that I've adopted. And I've noticed my clients who tend to work with me one to one, they are also very socially minded. So it's a nice sort of cycle to continue. That's it.
Amazing. So, Julia, you've been in business for some time. You failed, you created successes, you gained knowledge and wisdom. So, out of your experience, knowledge, wisdom, what would be your top three tips and strategies that you would like to share with the listeners today?
So tip number one, which I can't take the credit for it, somebody told me when I was starting my business, and I always share this. You can, and they told me you can either be Primark or Prada. And to people who are listening who are outside of the UK, Primark is a budget depart, clothes store, and you can get everything in there. That thing start like £5. It's really cheap and cheerful. And Prada, well, everybody knows Prada. It's a global, luxury brand. And so she said to me, you can either be Primark or Prada, but pick one and stick with it. And so I picked Prada, obviously. And the thing, but what she said is, she said neither of them is a bad choice, but just remember that Primark has to sell 10,000 handbags to make £10,000. Prada only has to sell one. So the first tip would be pick your spot in the market, pick your positioning in the market, and stick with it. Don't try to be everything to everybody, because no business can be everything to everybody. The other thing would be sell your most expensive services first. If somebody comes to you to buy something, don't offer them the cheapest thing. And I don't mean that in an underhanded way or in a slime ball way. But, if somebody comes to you to buy a green pen, and you have a program called Green Pens Are Us, I've just made that up, Clay, that's awful. Then just be upfront and say, you said that you're interested in having a green pen. I've got a program all about green pens. Can I talk to you about it? Why would we sell them something that helps them make a yellow pen and something that helps them make a blue pen, and then 6 months later they still don't have the green pen that they came to you for in the first place? So sell your best offer up front. And if somebody doesn't want that option, then it's all well and good to say, okay, if that isn't a good fit for you, check this, and then you can downsell them. And my third tip would be to have a vision bigger than the money. I have found that it's easier to make money when that money has a purpose. Now, I'm not saying that you want to cure cancer or whatever, but a simple thing like looking for a local organization, charitable organization, and thinking, how can I use my money to make a difference in this way? Because we have a responsibility, like, in Western society, we're really lucky. We have luxury problems like my phone isn't updating properly. We don't have to worry about where is my food coming from. And there are people in the world who have to worry about where their food is coming from. So pick a focus that is bigger than the financial goals. Have a social goal that sits alongside the financial goal because it will make the financial goals all the more enjoyable. It's actually one of the things, like one of my programs is a 6 month program. And at the start of that program, the prep is they have to fill in a worksheet that makes them look at the life goal and the corresponding money goal. And we always do the life goal first. So somebody might say, "Oh, well, I want to make enough to send my child to, a certain school." That's the life goal because that's what's driving them. That's what's keeping them going when, the program gets tough. And then we look at, okay, so how much money do you need to make that life goal happen? So always have a plan bigger than the money.
Thank you for sharing that with us, Juliet. And throughout your journey, did you come across any kind of resources that helped you with your business and life or made your life easier that you could share with us today?
Sure. So one of my favorite books, and I actually I give it to quite a few of my clients, although most people have read it by now. So I used to give it to quite a few of my clients, is The E-Myth Revisited. And that book really changed how I looked at how to set up my business. Um, you know, we kind of underestimate, even though you're a one-man band, we won't always be a one. Like I operate my business just me and a VA. And yes, that works for me and it works for my VA because there are still systems in place. She knows what she needs to do and I know what I need to do. And it means when I need to outsource, I outsource on a project basis. So if I have a particular thing working on, I know, okay, that spot needs to be filled. And so the E-Myth deals with business systems and business growth, and it makes you look at your business with a view to how it will grow. So I recommend that book. If you haven't read it, if you're listening and you haven't read that book yet, find it on Amazon, get it because it will really change how you view structures. And it's not really the cute part of business structures. Another book that, well, it's a resource, it's not necessarily a book, but I listen to it on audio all the time, is Think and Grow Rich, which is an old one by Napoleon Hill. It makes me personally, it makes me look at money and wealth and finances in a different way. And it makes me constantly remind myself that this is nothing to do with me kind of personally, it's to do with how I receive things. And that might sound a bit woo to people, but like I charge anywhere between 3,000, like charging dollars now, even though I'm based in the UK. And so my fees are anywhere from $25,000 to $3,000. And so when you have to have a conversation with someone and go, "Oh, it's $25,000, please," you have to have a real sense of surety and security and confidence and know your value. And so listening to that particular recording really helped me to build that mental confidence in myself so that I could have those conversations as my business grew. I can't think of anything else. There's another book, which the name's just gone out of my head. Four Pillars of Prosperity. And it's a book that talks about tithing. And you can tell there's a running theme here. I like the idea of giving. And the book talks about tithing, and yes, it uses the word God, which is fine for me, as a Christian. So it's God for me, but some people might get a bit hung up on the fact that it uses the word God. But it really looks at what you do with your money and how to kind of ensure that you have more of it. And one of the things it teaches is tithing, where you give 10% to the person, place, or institution that has provided you with spiritual food. And I know it's not a spiritual podcast, but spiritual food doesn't have to be, prayer or blessing or anything. It could just be somebody shared a resource with you at just the right time that totally changed everything in your business. Like that for me I would also consider that spiritual food as much as somebody saying, "Oh, I've prayed for you, and I felt better because they prayed for me." So if you can get past the God language, that's a really good resource. Because even though I grew up in church and I still go to church, it's kind of part of our life. And I knew tithing from a given 10% to church. I could see how non-church goers could apply that principle and really change everything in their business. Yes, that's it.
So you mentioned quite a few books already, but
Mm.
I hear from a lot of people that at some point of life they came across a book that changed their life. So did you have such a book, and was it one of the mentioned ones or another one?
It was another one actually. So I read all the time. You know, I bought a Kindle. No, I bought a tab. I have the Kindle app on the tab. My books were getting really out of control. And when we were moving house, you know, side story, when we were moving house, we actually at one point downsized from a 3 bedroom house to a 1 bedroom flat. And I had to be ruthless and give away my books, and that like broke my heart.
Mm.
And so I had to swap things to, you know, Kindle version so that I didn't lose my books, because I really love books, always have. But the book that changed my life was The Secret. And I'd love to say it was a business book, but it was that book. Because even though I grew up in church, I I had not, and you know, I hadn't heard of prosperity teachings in that particular way. And so I guess for me, that particular book met me where I was at that time, and it really changed my perspective on what is possible going forward. And I'm not one of these people that go, you know, believes that the law of attraction and you just have to say affirmations and things happen. I believe in taking action, but equally, it showed me the power of intent and the power of language. So even as I describe my business, if I have a problem, I'm not going to dwell on the problem. Yes, things are good, but there are moments where I'm like, you know what, forget this. I'm going to go get a job cashiering in the supermarket or something because I've had enough. We all have those moments. And it helps to shape my language around how I describe my life, how I describe my business, how I talk about the things that I want to have in life and business, and so that changed direction. And when I read that book, when I read it, I wasn't even thinking about becoming an entrepreneur. You know, I was still in corporate and I had a good corporate job, but it just, something just went off in my head. And I think it changed the trajectory of my life.
Well, thank you for sharing that with us, Julia. Um, you know, you came quite a long way. You build a profitable business. You help other business owners and entrepreneurs now to build, their businesses to 100K, 500,000. So, you've done really well. But what is next for you? What's your next big goal, aim? And if there is someone listening today who could potentially help you get there, who would it be?
So my next big goal, and I can't even believe I'm saying this out loud because I think I've only admitted it to my clients, is to hit the $1 million mark by 2020. So that's my next big goal. I'm like, if it don't scare me, what's the point, right? So that's my next big business goal. My next like life goal, because again, it's the life and the business. So the life goal that is attached to that is I want to be able to retire my husband so we could spend 6 months in the UK and 6 months in Trinidad. So that's what's driving the, you know, that financial desire. And I could do it now, but I want to be able to do it in style. So I'm being honest. Like I have expensive taste.
I think
And
most of the women do,
yeah,
don't they?
so like, you know, I can't even pretend to myself. I could probably make it happen now on a budget, but I don't really do on a budget. so, so I'm gonna have to wait a little while for that to happen. So that's where I am. And if somebody's listening, who would it be? Who would it be? I'd say Sir Richard, because like Sir Richard or Deborah Meaden, who was one of the dragons. Yeah, if it was anybody who's listening who could make that happen, why the two of them? I like Deborah Meaden because she's really like bullshit, you know, she kind of tells it like it is and is very straight spoken. And I think that if I could have her, Richard Branson, helping me to scale. Richard Branson really knows about like growing a brand, and I'd really value how his mind would look at my business and go, right, okay, so you can expand that bit, you can expand that bit, you can expand that bit. And I think Deborah Medium would be really good for the distribution channels. Clearly, I've thought about this. I haven't actually. I kind of dreamed about it. So that's a really good question. And I think the two of them could help me achieve that. Having said that, I do have a coach who is helping me to put things in place to get closer to that goal. So yeah.
Awesome. Julia, we're coming to the end of the show, but before we say our goodbyes, is there anything else you would like to share or advise on today?
The one thing I will say is set your prices higher than you feel comfortable to right now. So if it's any one thing that listeners and viewers will take away, is to, when you set your current prices, set them higher than you feel comfortable. Now, when I say higher than you feel comfortable, I don't mean if you're selling things for £500 or $500 that you suddenly go to be charging $10,000, because that's not going to happen. Like, I'm a realist in that way, and I'm the same way with my clients. If they come to me and they're like, "Oh, I'm only charging £500 and I want to have a 10K program," I turn them away because it's not possible to. When I say it's not possible, it's not easy to make that leap from 500 to 10,000. It's like getting your driver's license on Monday and trying to drive a Ferrari on Tuesday. You're going to crash and burn. It takes time to drive a high performance car, and it takes time to be able to have the confidence and to have the conversations to ask for those high fees. But equally, if you're currently charging $500 and I'd say, okay, so 500 feels good for you, why not go for 1,500? That's like 3 times as much, or even 2,000. Stretch yourself. And the reason why I'm leaving your community with that advice is because there's so much advice saying, oh, you need to start with the low thing and then gradually build up. And the time you're taking to gradually build up, you are not realizing your full potential. It's so much easier to be like, you're going to be nervous about selling anyway. So you might as well be nervous about selling something for 2,000, and then you've made 2,000 when you get it right, than to be nervous for selling something for 500, because then you have to sell 4. So you're going to be nervous 4 times. Rather than just be nervous once. So, funny story, there was a time when one of my clients was, she didn't make the sales that she wanted to make. And I was like, well, how is this going to affect you down the road? She's like, well, I'm behind. So it was something like $9,000 behind in her kind of predicted income. And I said, great, so let's put together a 9K package. And she was like, what? And I said, well, if you're 9K behind and you want to get caught up, let's put together a 9K package. Because then you freak out, you sell one, and you're caught up. Whereas most people's natural inclination is, oh, I'm 9K behind, I'll run a sale, and I'll give a discount, and I'll hustle to get, 900 people buying something at what, $100. Did I do those sums right? But that's our inclination. Let's hustle, let's discount things and do a sale and make up that 9K. The energy that you're expending to get 90 people to buy something for 90 people to buy something for $100 is more stressful than having conversations with somebody, the right people, to buy one thing at 9,000. So stretch yourself. Set your prices for where you want to go, not your current circumstances. At that time when I made that step up from 3,000 to 10,000, I knew the kind of clients I wanted to work with. I knew that I didn't want to be one of those wedding planners who was hustling 3 and 4 and 5 weddings in a weekend and burning out, because that was around me because I had to make the money. I knew that I wanted to work with one couple at a time who would value having a a wedding planner to take the stress off them. And so my fees reflected that experience for my clients, and it worked. And so for your community, let your fees reflect the kind of clients that you aspire to work with, because those people will come based on your higher fees. And that's pretty much what I say to my clients when they come to me to build a high-end coaching business.
Thank you for sharing that with us, Julia. So, what's the best way for anyone to get in touch and find you?
So two best ways. The best way is my website, which is juliabernardthompson.com. And if they go to juliabernardthompson.com/gift, they will be able to download a guide to 15K months. And so a lot of people find that guide really useful because it helps you to kind of look at what you're offering in your business now, see where you can make changes, and most importantly, how to market at those higher price points. So that's juliabernardthompson.com gift, and they can sign up for the gift there. And the other best place is my Facebook group, which is called Highly Paid Coaches. And so if they search on Facebook for Highly Paid Coaches with Julia, they will find the group there. And you don't have to be a highly paid coach to join, but you need to be committed to working at a certain level.
Awesome. Well, thank you so much for making the time and coming on the show today and sharing all of this with us. It's been a great pleasure to have you, Julia, and I really look forward to catching up again soon.
Thank you so much. Thank you, Svetlana. It went so quickly. I can't even believe we're at the end, and I really appreciate you having me on the show.